Well, look at the news, everybody. Inanimate 7217 finally came out after 7 billion reminders that we will get a trailer for the episode once they hit 650k. And they only hit that once the trailer had already come out. So if you've been living under a quite literal rock this past week, the 17th episode of Inanimate 72 has come out, and let me say, this episode blew me away. Like, I was surprised more and more as the episode progressed. And the final scene too. Oh, and also the whole period when the animation epic team were hyping up the trailer every 2 seconds was pretty funny, but also kind of annoying since a lot of people, like me, really wanted to see what happened after the final scene last episode. But in the end, we still got to the second to last episode. And now I'm gonna review it. And please remember to subscribe if you enjoyed this video since we're super close to 3k. And if you didn't know already, if I hit 3k before 2025, I will turn my profile picture into this cute little capybara. And with all that said, on to the video. Okay, so, because this episode is over 30 minutes long, I will give a quick recap of this episode to get everyone in the loop.
Last time on Inanimate and Sandy.
We start off with the scene at the Purgatory Mansion as Marshmallow explains why she left the show, and while Fan and Tessie brush are wondering why Bo screams sound just like the egg, the finalists confront Mifune about their creation, which they end up getting arrested. Anyway, while the other contestants are at the hotel getting wiped off one by one, and in the Purgatory Mansion, Tessie, Fan, and Libel die. Once all the survivors reunite in the mansion, they try to get the finalists to escape their cell, but they fail, and cops sends them to a fight to the death between the two, in which they surprise them by deleting everything the Me Life ever generated, including them. Finally, we get the final scene where Cops and Mifune see each other again, and where Mifune has no choice than to go with Cops. And that's what you miss on Inanimate. So starting off, I just want to say that pretty much everything in this episode is done and executed pretty much perfectly, and I'll say why. The animation is solid, there aren't any glaring issues with it, and it's pretty good and consistent. Though I've already said that I prefer the style of the episodes better, where you can definitely tell it's more lively than the last few episodes of the season, but still, that doesn't mean it's bad. Some of the scenes' animations are done really well, like the scene where Mifune wakes up and looks at all of the now dead contestants' personalities as character traits that Mifune originally assigned to them, while he just looks in horror. The fight scene, and of course, we can't forget about
A new me phone!
While I do wish the animation did look so basic at times, the overall visuals and idea throughout the episode do make the overall episode look a lot better, and I can't complain about that. Next up, the voice acting. There is honestly a lot to go over in this regard, but I'll keep it short. There is clearly a lot of thought, effort, and talk for Inanimate Insanity, so the voice acting is obviously very good and practically flawless throughout the episode, as all of the voices clearly fit the characters. And even if they didn't, the voice acting throughout the scenes are really good. And just to name a few of the scenes, we have Fan explaining the Inanimate Insanity lore, of course, any scene that involves crying, and the last few scenes were some of the best in my opinion. Oh, and also, Taco's voice kicks ass. Now, all these seems really good and all, which it is, but there's, the elephant in the room we have to talk about, more specifically, Toilet. Now look, I get it and all, Toilet's voice is very specific and pretty hard to replicate, but that still doesn't change anything. Toilet's voice is straight ass this episode, no questions asked. It just sounds really childish and annoying to listen to. I'm sorry to all Toilet fans, but I'm just being brutally honest here. And finally, the absolute best for last, the writing and plot for the episode. I don't think I have to explain why too much, you should already know. But all of the scenes were done super well writing wise, and I could honestly just name my favorite ones if I wanted to. But actually, you know what, fuck it, I'll say them all. We have the scene where the finalists confront Mifune and Cops, the other scene where Cops reveals the final challenge, the Mike and Taco scene, the whole moment where Toilet comes in as a Mifune X, and also where everyone gets sent to the infernal abyss of Meeple. Oh, and also Mifune walking up to black graffiti all over his contestants, Fan and Libel dying in Paintbrush's reaction, the finalists fight scene and Toilet deleting everything, and of course the final scene. All of these scenes are executed very well, and all of them build off of each other to make a really entertaining and enjoyable episode that keeps you on your toes the whole way through. And while the animation is a significant downgrade, I prefer writing being more prioritized than the animation, as it's the content that matters, not the visuals. I mean, visuals do matter, but not as much, kind of how I do with my videos. Oh, and if we're gonna talk about writing, we can ignore the last scene. That scene is probably the most flat out cold scene in the entire series. The environment is dead, plain, and dark, the voice acting is all serious and upsetting, and the lines are just as depressing. I cannot express how good of a job this scene does as being the conclusion to the episode, and maybe even the whole series. Oh, and speaking about that, I feel like you need to clarify that there is going to be another episode, okay? I know the final scene might suggest otherwise, as everyone literally died, asterisk, and it's just, well, fitting for the end of the series, but movies never end in Act 2, okay? And not to even mention that Brian basically confirmed that there will be one more episode. So yeah, Inanimate Insanity still isn't over yet, bitches. But to be honest, I really wouldn't be that sad if it did end with that. I mean, unless there's going to be a happy ending, the final scene of this episode does a near perfect job at finishing the show. So if it really ended there, I can say that I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm not complaining about one extra episode. Of course, and that's just flat out stupid. What the fuck? So yeah, this was an overall excellent episode, a 10 out of 10, if you will. Animation, voice acting, and the writing is just great. And I can't wait to see more of what the animation team will do in the future. Yeah, it's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure that we'll just do something else once and then Insanity is over. Idiots. Now, I would end the video here, but there is something else I would like to talk about here. You see, many people are quite frankly disappointed by the episode's ending, saying that it didn't have a happy ending and that everyone is sad and that it's a cliffhanger. And look, I have to disagree on these takes. First off, not all shows need to have a happy ending. For example, one didn't really have a happy ending and it definitely left us with a cliffhanger. And while I used to not like the finale for that, it's grown on me ever since because it's different. There isn't a rule where all objects need to have a happy ending and no cliffhangers, and while most will do that as a default, just because someone decides to change it up doesn't mean it's a bad ending, it's just different. And the Inanimate Insanity 17 ending is honestly fine in my opinion, maybe even good. And for the people saying that it's a cliffhanger, that I'm going to have to disagree with. Everyone is literally dead. Meatphone lost his show, and now him and Cups are going back to Meeple. And as I already said, it wouldn't be that surprised if that was the end of the whole series. I don't see what questions are left to be answered there. Well, except what happened to Bot and Bo, but that's mostly irrelevant. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching yet another one of my reviewing yapping sessions. I really gotta stop doing these. And I'll see you next time, of course. Oh, and by the way, what the fuck happened to Adam's Twitter account?